Welcome to Art and Object's first major art catalogue for 2011. I'm Hamish Coney, and with me is Ben Plumbly, the Director of Art here at Art and Object. We're particularly proud of this catalogue. It is in fact the 42nd catalogue that Art and Object has produced since 2007, and we're very proud to be able to offer probably the best art catalogue that we have offered since the company's launch in 2007. The centrepiece, of course, is the great Colin McCann masterpiece He Calls for Elias, which Ben is going to talk about in just a second. All of the artworks in the catalogue are currently on exhibition at Art and Object from the 5th of April until the auction date on the 12th of April, 6:30 of that evening, and online, of course, at www.artandobject.co.nz.
We're truly privileged in this sale to be offering two wonderful works by Colin McCann, New Zealand's most well-known and preeminent painter, really. It's a difficult work to talk about, really. It's a difficult work. It was an incredibly difficult work when it was conceived, of course. In 1959, the painting travelled with the rest of the Elias series down to an exhibition in Christchurch. And McCann speaks of this exhibition, this body of work, and says, you know, he has absolutely no hope of them selling, of there being little or no market for these works. And that was true. None of them sold at the time. Of course, later on, the Elias series would come to be recognised as one of McCann's most important bodies of work. It's a small series of 13 or 14 works, and this particular work is one of sort of two or three of the unabashed masterpieces from the Elias series. It was selected for the cover of the Question of Faith catalogue by the international curator Marja Bloom, and it really is widely regarded as one of McCann's most important paintings. I think the reason for that is whereas before, when the artist had operated using text in his compositions, he had done so in such a way that they were really a small part of the composition. They were integrated into the New Zealand landscape, and they appeared in text bubbles, as in the works of the 1940s. This is really the first time that the text becomes subject of the painting in itself. And probably a good place to start with this is, funnily enough, the back of the painting. This wonderful McCann text features again, just insofar as the inscription and the title. There's an Auckland City Art Gallery label, an auction house label from when the work was previously offered in 1987, and the bottom of the composition there painted out as well. And you can also see from it that it has its original frame on it. I think at its heart it is a painting about doubt, about human doubt, about something that is common to all of us, and it's no secret that McCann had his own doubts and his own battles, both with his audience and with Christianity and belief. And this is a painting that really takes that as its cue. You can all read the text, which is so beautifully inscribed there. It says, "He calls for Elias. Let us see whether Elias will come to save him." Elias, of course, was the 9th century Hebrew prophet who was believed effectively never to have died, never to have passed. The text in the painting really comes from a proclamation made from someone in the crowd as to whether Jesus Christ would be saved from the crucifixion, as Elias was. So it's a painting about faith, about doubt, about understandings and misunderstandings. More than that, I think formally for McCann, it's a painting about text, obviously about writing. And you can see that the inscription in it, McCann is working through many of the things that you see in much of his classic text. This beautiful cursive written text, the blocky letters. There's some wonderful formal devices here. Obviously the red is so strong and so powerful, and you know, it signifies danger and warning, as it does in McCann's later masterpiece, Storm Warning. So you have this blood red text, you know, sounding an alarm effectively. This cubist or quasi-cubist treatment of the background. So it's quite a foreboding, dark painting, but then also you have these wonderful shots of white coming in, you know, offering us a glimpse of hope. The work itself is conceived with enamel paint, with just plain old household paint, and that was another shift that was going on for McCann as well. It's an absolute wonderful painting to have. It's a great privilege to be offering. It's the first time it's been offered since 1987. It's been in a private collection in Australia, repatriated to New Zealand for this sale. It would be wonderful to think that it would stay in New Zealand. It would be wonderful to think that it would go into an institution. because it certainly deserves to be in such company. These works are so rare. It would be the most important McCann, perhaps the most important painting to come to the auction market in 10 or 12 years. McCann's Kauri and White Pine, which is part of his Titirangi landscapes. This is a beautiful painting, one that we've had for a little bit of time now. I've had a lot of chance to spend in its company, and it is an incredibly rewarding and successful example of these cubist works, this unique marriage of and slightly disjunctive marriage of cubism to the New Zealand landscape. This one has these wonderfully characteristic sort of intersecting diagonal planes and is nicely dated and inscribed on the back. It's from October 1957. I think it's probably one of the final works he did from this cubist period.
It's a wonderful opportunity to be able to talk to you about the superb Francis Hodgkins still life and landscape from about 1930. Works by Hodgkins are extremely rare to come to the marketplace, and Francis Hodgkins occupies a unique position in New Zealand art history, probably the first New Zealand artist, certainly the first female artist, to enjoy a substantive international career. This work from 1930 is from the mature period of her work, where the full flowering of modernist movements in the 20th century are starting to be seen in her work. And we see here a particular genre that Hodgkins made her own, which is the still life outdoors. Traditionally, the still life was a domestic interior scene. But here, Francis Hodgkins is able to conflate the landscape with a still life scene. And what we have here is a lovely autumnal tableau. We see the trees here without their leaves, and this interesting still life arrangement of ceramics on what must be a picnic scene. But the idea to take the intimacy of the still life so that the ceramics and the objects are hard up against the picture place with the long distance landscape creates a wonderful airy sense of depth in this work, where we both are able to enjoy the idea of this construction outdoors, but also the detail of the ceramics that she has so delicately rendered with her facility in watercolour, which is really second to none in New Zealand painting. It is very similar to a work from the same period, two plates, also cut melons in the Te Papa collection, and this particular work has a wonderful exhibition provenance, most recently having been exhibited in the Auckland Art Gallery exhibition Leitmotif in 2005. It's a current conversation in art world circles. The question is perpetually asked, is painting dead? For the last 15 years, we have seen the rise of new media in the form of digital photography and video works, and of course, the growth of installations. Here's a painting and an artist that conclusively answers the question, painting is not dead, it never dies. It just recontextualizes itself within the contemporary moment. Peter Stutchbury, for the last 10 to 15 years, has developed a reputation as a supreme exemplar of the art of portrait painting. If you get up close and personal with this painting, you see it's absolutely perfect. It's out competing a photograph in terms of its perfection, its sheen, its ability to modulate light. There's something mesmerizing about the works of Stutchbury. The titles of the works themselves are constructs, they're found, and what he is able to do with a work such as this is create an icon. Arp's work eschews some of the more obvious painterly or artistic ideas of skill or traditional making, and focuses frequently on found objects, the arrangement and assemblage of seemingly incongruous or unrelated items to create dialogues that we can enter into to discuss frequently not just the ideas about what constitutes art, but the contemporary world that we live in. And that, of course, is the job of contemporary art. Michael Zavros, on the other hand here, like Peter Stutchbury, is engaged in a dialogue with the traditions and the history of painting and how that relates to the digital world that we live in, where we have recourse to so many images. This magnificent leaping horse, which seems to literally rise up from the canvas and leap over the top of us, is a work that has connections to some of the earliest days of photography, the work of Edward Muybridge, which many of you will be familiar with. Zavros is very much a celebrated Australian artist. He has taken the physical living object and literally cut it from all its surroundings, all of its reference points, indeed even the earth. Suspended in space, it becomes a meditation on mortality and a potent example of a contemporary artist's ability to find and represent the familiar.
Well, putting together these catalogues, of which we do 3 a year, to be frank, can be a little bit of a lottery. We're always subject to the whims of supply. I like there to be something for everyone. It's not just about $500,000 paintings, and this is a wall I've put together of things which are, I guess, far more affordable and which will have a more widespread interest from buyers, and I'm really happy with it actually. We've got everything from this wonderful self-portrait of Phil Claremont, which is a painting, while not big in stature, is I think one of the most beautiful and well-resolved Claremonts I've ever had. It dates to 1975. A very unusual and very successful Stanley Palmer of Te Hunga Beach. Obviously you don't see a lot of Stanley Palmer's works with figures in there, so that's particularly nice to have. And one of Michael Parakofai's lovely little sculptures there, Bill Jarvis with the taxidermied bird on top, as well as his Bosom of Abraham lightbox. So please come on down and have a look at the viewing. It really is a wonderful show, this one. There's something here for all tastes and all budgets, so it'll be great to see you.